On Sunday, May 8th, Mother's Day, New Face Promotion presents Retro Bingo. Retro Bingo, up to $5,000 in cash. 5 $200 games, 2 $500 games, 1 $1,000 game, and the jackpot $2,000. Retro Bingo going down at 178 Newport Street. Music by DJ Flawless, No Apology, and DJ Hot Stepper. Your tickets cost $40. More at the door. For more info, call 347-304-5453. Zelle or Cash App is accepted. Start time 7 p.m. It's Retro Bingo. Mother's Day, Sunday, May 8th. Lots of giveaways for the lady. Retro Bingo, up to $5,000 in cash. Sunday, May 8th, Mother's Day.
Well, it's on the right along, so it's happening here.
Came over here. What does it mean? You know, I grew up in what I guess you call it typical family.
We break all the stories. And that's just a fact. And that's why everyone has a story to tell.
Right Along Live, I mean, yeah, it's a real deal.
Yeah, yes. Welcome to the ride. Bienvenido. It's beautiful Monday. Yeah, it's Monday. Don't you just love Monday? Hey, how you doing? Folks in New York City, how you guys doing? As you're coming, go ahead and share up the program. Let me do it. Yeah, it's Monday. Don't you just love Monday? Yeah. Hit to here. Back the audio. Yes, guys. So let me go ahead and share up the thing as well. Today's an interesting program. Very, very, very interesting program. Yes. I'll tell you what we have on the program in a little bit. So let me just go ahead and share. Yeah. Hey, Lacey Jeff, how you doing? Lacey J, I missed the Lacey J. I know you're blocked. Yes, everybody know you're blocked now, Lacey J. Who else there? Hey, Lydia James, how you doing? Big up yourself, Lydia James. Thank you so much. Guys, today, it's all about... It's a lot of things, man. It's a lot of things. A lot of stuff in the air. A lot has been happening. A lot happened over this weekend, guys. A whole lot happened over this weekend. So today we have two independent candidates, right? Mr. Denison George and, well, we all know Mr. Earl Maitland from GEM. Now, these two men is going to be here, and we're talking about politics, and we're talking about their push, their initiative or their plans, I should say, for election 2022. But that's not all we have for you guys. With election fever brewing up and everybody in the height and getting ready to vote, we have a pollster, Mr. Peter Wickham. We're going to be chatting with him as well. And he has some pretty interesting perspective on how the political thing, how the landscape shaping. And he has some interesting message for both the NNP and the NDC. We're going to play back that shortly. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting program today. Sasha, how you doing? Welcome. Lydia, Glenda, Renee, Kibbs, how you doing? Yes. Akeem, everybody share. All right. So let's first introduce, ladies and gentlemen. He's no stranger to the ride. He's been on the program probably more than most people. And today he is here to talk about his viable independent bid for the next general election there in Grenada. Mr. Earl Maitland, how you go, Mr. Maitland?
I'm good, Junior. Pleasant good afternoon to you and to Mr. Denison George and all the
Thank
viewers.
Thank you so much. We're going to be hearing a lot more about Jem and Earl Maitland. Mr. Denison George, how are you doing, my friend?
My brother, let me say I'm doing well. Let me just say a pleasant good afternoon to all the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. And I look forward to sharing my ideas with you in regards to building a new Grenada, a just Grenada, and a Grenada for all Grenadians. Because lately we have gotten so caught up in the two-party system. We have gotten so caught up in the ideology of yellow and green that we are forgetting what this is all about. This is about Grenada, the well-being of Grenada, Grenada moving forward in the future. And it seems like that is lost on the consciousness, and we have one set of people to blame for that, is the people, the leaders of these political parties that are putting party before country. So tonight, both Brother Maitland and I are going to stress why it's important to put country first instead of party politics.
All right. Okay. There we go. Let's start it up. Brother Maitland, tell us about this upcoming election and your political aspiration.
Mm-hmm. All right. So once again, good afternoon. My aim, Junior, is to offer equal protection and unbiased application of our laws. And that simply means that we have seen what has occurred over the past few decades or so. Persons having a constitutional right or constitutional privileges and freedoms to do many things, which include work, equal protection to justice, a fair trial, and all of that. Just simply to live peaceful lives. And these things have been taken away. They have been applied with prejudice many times over the years. The evidence is there. And what I am hoping to do, is to remove that obstacle in the face of democracy to ensure that everyone who comes on this island in Grenada, Carriacou, or Petit Martinique are treated fairly like human beings. And that is simply it. It also covers, that was it in a nutshell, but it simply covers everything that you can think of. It covers the healthcare system and every other thing, Junior.
Right. Okay. We're going to touch a little bit more on that. But Brother George, your political aspiration, I know that you are vying to be the independent candidate for St. Andrews Southeast. Tell us more about your political aspiration for this upcoming general election.
Well, it's St. Andrews Northeast.
Northeast, sorry.
Yes, let me just say this. I don't believe I have political aspiration. I have aspiration to see Grenada move forward. I have positive aspiration for my country. Political aspiration would mean that I'm tying to political ideology, party politics. My ideology have to do with Grenada moving forward. Let me just say this, Brother Junior. You know I'm a professional musician, and I'm also an attorney here. Let me tell you what got me started in this. And let me just give you a little background of where I'm coming from. A few years ago, I was in Grenada, and I visited the General Hospital with my aunt. And when I got to Maribor Hospital, there was no wheelchairs, very few, for the patient to carry the patient in. When I got back to New York, I said, no, that got to change. I got it right away, and I provided Maribor hospitals with wheelchairs, crutches. I did the same thing a year after for the St. George's Hospital, almost $30,000 in medical equipment. I provided the St. George's St. George's Hospital with 2 kidney dialysis machines when I've realized people are dying in Grenada who cannot afford $700 a week to have kidney dialysis. Then it happened that Davina Lewis went on national TV and begged for help because she and the people in a place called Baghdad behind Simoon is living in condition that is illegal and that should never, no Grenadian should be living in the condition that the people of the back of Simoon is living in today. And when Miss Lewis went for help and it went worldwide on national TV that this woman and her children is sleeping in such conditions and existing in such conditions and no one is doing anything about it. There was a young man from Soubise that went ahead and started building that house. And then Earl Maitland got on it. And then Earl Maitland brought me on in it. And we made sure that that house was completed. When Davina Lewis went to her minister, Minister Kate Lewis, and she asked for help, Minister Kate Lewis told her to go and make lime juice and stand up by the road and sell it. When the people of Simoon asked the minister again a second time for help, she was so angry, she told them to go and call GBN News. Now, if you're the minister of St. Andrews Northeast, and it doesn't affect you to see a woman and her children is sleeping in this condition where they are getting wet in the night, and you gonna tell her to go and make lime juice and sell. And not only that, Brother Junior, while I was building that house for Davina Lewis, these people were giving out boards and cement to other people. They didn't give Davina Lewis one piece. While I was building that house because they were punishing her. And that is what motivated me. I said, you know what? I am a Grenadian. I love my people. And when it comes to Grenada, I put my money where my mouth is. And I've been doing and continue to do as a philanthropist. And that's what is motivating me to bring change to the people of Grenada. Grenada is bogged down in two-party politics. And after 20 years of two parties, the country is poor. After 20 years of two parties fighting against each other, there is no new hospitals. Unemployment is still 40, 30, 40, 50%. Grenadian young people have no hopes. Grenadian young men are drinking their sorrows away because they can't find jobs. While we continue to fight between yellow and green. And this is what is driving my political ambition, to bring good to Grenada, to bring good to our people. Because somebody needs to stand up and fight for the poor people of Pulse. Somebody needs to stand up and fight for the poor people of Simoon and Moya and Portree and St. John's and Paraclete, instead of you have a minister telling you to go and make lime juice and stand up on the road and sell it.
But this one, to you, Earl, and you could chime in as well, Mr. George, why frontline politics? And if you work into frontline politics, why not affiliate yourself with one of the established political organization? Do you see that as being in politics as a individual party or independent party? Do you see it as a way as taking away vote from one particular organization than the next, or feeding one political party advantage over the next? What's your thoughts on that, Earl?
Yeah, well, let me, I responded to a comment on your post today, where somebody was actually making a statement like that. We live in a democratic country which establishes mandates for many persons to partake in the election, as electorates, as politicians. And the problem that we face in Grenada, or probably the world with corruption, is that many persons who are aligned to political parties do not speak out in fear that they might lose the positions that they have. The beauty of having independent candidates or persons that stand for a country instead of partisan politics is the fact that we would not have persons who are... Junior, just 1 second, please.
Yeah, no problem. I guess you could chime in on that, Denison. Why frontline politics? And if you were to get into frontline politics, why not affiliate yourself with one of the established political organization?
Junior, this is bigger than me. I would love to serve Grenada in any capacity. People don't have to vote for me. I don't have to run for election. I want to speak out about issues that are concerning the Grenadian people, issues that are affecting Grenadian people. We had a situation in Grenada just last year where this young child was viciously molested by an American citizen who came to Grenada. Molest this child. Went to court in Grenville, and the magistrate charged him $600, and he had an airline ticket to fly back to America. I got on the case, and I contacted the FBI. I contacted the New York State Attorney General. Junior, you know about that case because you worked on that case. And today, that young man pleaded guilty and is facing 30 years in federal prison. The audacity of that judge to sentence that, to charge that young man $600 and think it's okay. The audacity of the Minister of St. Andrews Northeast, Minister Kate Lewis, to never once call that child's mother and express some kind of sympathy is audacity of how mundane they are to the plight of the people. These people are not in touch with the reality of poor people and the reality of people who are less fortunate in Grenada. And I'm going to tell you this. Why I'm not, listen, I'm willing to serve in, I'm about Grenada, putting Grenada first. Regardless of which party need my service, I am here to serve. So I am not a member of NDC. I'm not a member of NNP. I'm not a member of GULP. So I was not nominated by their party, but I am a member of the Grenadian public. And I'm going to continue to speak on issues until I'm going to continue to be the voice of the poor people and the people who are less fortunate in Grenada until they are heard. Enough is enough.
Right. Earl, you could finish your statement.
Right. Yeah. My apologies. So basically, Junior, what I was saying is that there's a clear and present danger in the partisan politics. For instance, the last 2 years should have taught many persons what occurs with partisan politics. When we look at the mandates of the vaccination of the many persons who were sent home, the pregnant mothers, the grandmothers, and so forth, from their jobs simply because they did not take an experimental substance that was offered here by Grenada. I have not heard any of the major political parties that is frequently spoken of representing the people, especially knowing that the people have a constitutional right to work and what had happened was illegal. Now, the thing is, Junior, what we see happening, it's an embarrassment. It's an insult to the Constitution. And to say that, I would stand or join in something that I don't believe in, that would make me, in my opinion, less of a human being, of a person. In my view, and what I have been doing, what Mr. George has been doing, we actually raise funds to assist persons, be it for medical, be it dialysis, be it spinal treatment, brain tumors, whatever it is. But these political parties that we speak of, they raise funds to campaign and ask persons to vote for them. So there is a major and crucial difference there that must be highlighted. I have not seen Mr. George using any of his monies to actually put up posters or drive around Grenada on trucks asking people to vote for him. Instead,
Right.
what
To that note, keep hold that thought right there. So, if a candidate is not doing these things, actively participating in wiling up or gathering the campaign, do you expect to come out victorious? And if not, why are you actually in frontline politics? What is the agenda? What is the idea? At the end of the day, what you're looking to accomplish as an independent candidate?
Right? Shouldn't your work speak for you, Junior? Right? Many times we continue to hear the empty promises. I have lived in Grenada all my life, and we continue to hear the empty promises. Last election, it was about having representation for the people. Much rhetoric, like the previous times. We heard about oil and gas from one side. We heard about representation for the less fortunate people. Has that been done? our work should speak for us. And the purpose of politics, Junior, is to make policies to better the lives of the people, right? It is not to ensure that a certain few number of persons live better lives. It speaks
Right.
about aspiring to build and advance as one people, not for
It
some.
you get a little dark, or so you might want to start turning on that light above your head, if possible. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I see you, Earl. You one of the hardest working activists, and you ought to be respected for that. You are. Every time we know of a situation, the first person that people say that they will contact is Earl Maitland. You were praised by the RGPF with that case that we did on the program here, publicly on television. So you are very active. Denison also. Denison is always on the ground, always doing things, helping out wherever. Denison don't even ask for no assistance financially. I know that for a fact because we keep in touch. But do you need to get into politics to accomplish those things? Is it is being in political position the answer to fix these problems? Or being an activist, could you do it as an activist and be as...
Right. You know, Junior, thank you for that question. And the answer is yes. In this day and age in Grenada, you need to be actively involved in the policy making in the House of Representatives. For instance, the mandates that were made by the policy makers over the last 2 years, it speaks for itself. It speaks a lot of corruption. It speaks about violating the constitutional rights of persons. Now, besides having the lockdowns and so forth, the regulations only took away the constitutional right to work from a certain class of people. That included the hairdressers, the barbers, the manicurists, the pedicurists, and so forth. Now, there were persons in St. George's University who are not of the aforementioned professions. And those persons were sent home, Junior, and they had no representation from the Ministry of Labor. And what I would say is, when we went to the Ministry of Labor as a united people to stand in the interest of our law and our country, the best interest of the people, to ensure that other persons would not suffer the same fate due to corrupt persons in the authoritarian position. We were greeted by members of the Royal Grenada Police Force, Junior, 3 van loads of persons, of RGPF officers, including SSU officers, standing in the bushes, refusing persons to enter the ministerial complex, to go to the Ministry of Finance to file a legal complaint under the law, a right that is guaranteed to our employees who believe that they have been unfairly dismissed. They were about to be turned away by members of the Royal Grenada Police Force. And who sent those officers there? Persons in authority.
Right.
Now, when we speak of policy making and so forth, Junior, we actually need to understand exactly what it means to have policies made and the implementation, and also acknowledging the policies that are made. There is so much corruption in Grenada, persons may not believe, even in the electoral office. You know, and I would like to really share with you what transpired in a meeting last week, Thursday, as well.
We're definitely going to get to that part. I would just want to get the Denison George response to that. Denison, you are an activist. You work hard. You're a lawyer. You're a musician. You're successful. What could politics? Why politics? Not could. What could politics? Why politics? And do you need to be in politics to continue the job that you have been doing?
Junior, I don't need to be in politics to continue the job that I'm doing. But it's important to be in government. It's important to be part of good governance. Let me just say this to you, right? I intend to win my seat in the St. Andrews Northeast. I intend to be competitive. And if win or lose, I intend to continue to be in the voice of the voice. Right now, let me just tell you this. Right now, the Grenadian public has very faith, the faith in the political process and in politics, it's so low. It's they have no faith in politicians because all they have been fed is empty promises. You understand where I'm coming from? And people are tired of, listen, right now we have two Grenada. We have Grenada for the well-connected and for Grenada people who have no connection. You have Grenada for those who have access and Grenada for those who have no access. You understand where I'm coming from? That's why we have two Grenada right now in existence. In every aspect of our lives in Grenada, we have two Grenada. You go into Port de Clare Barrel, if you don't know who is there, you're not going to get a deal. You go to, it's so much of our aspect of our government services. You have two Grenada existing, those in connections, those without connection. And I intend to get into government to level the playing field. It's time we level the playing field in Grenada and give back Grenada to the people of Grenada, not the well-connected. Let me just say, I had a lady call me from Canada, and she said, Denison, she said, let me tell you this. She said the Canadian government just opened up a program where they're looking for farm workers from Grenada. She said I could bring in right now 300 farm workers from Grenada, men, to come to Canada to work. She said I wrote to the Ministry of Agriculture in Grenada. I wrote to the Ministry of Labor, and nothing, because they don't care. Everyone, they are secured in their positions. They have their political connections, and that's all they care about. They don't care about poor people, children. Look, most of these people in power in Grenada, let me explain something to the Grenadian people. Most of these ministers you see in Grenada, half of them, the children are born abroad. A lot of the people in power in Grenada, the children are born abroad. And when the children finish T.A. Marisho Community College, when they finish St. George's University, they send them abroad to study and to work. They don't send them into the Imani program. You understand where I'm coming about? Where I'm coming from, right, Junior? So we have to level the playing field. And that's what this is about. So I intend to take position and advance the plight of the less fortunate people. Where is the progress? Look at St. George's. Look at Grenville. Who own all the stores? And where are Grenadians? We're selling on the sidewalk. And all our stores are owned by foreigners. And nothing wrong with foreigners. But where is the progress in that? Where is the progress? We built 3 5-star hotels in the last 10 years and we can't build a good general hospital. Where is the progress in that? Where is the progress? You see, Junior, some of the political party may not want me because you know what? I speak the truth. Men in Grenada today are drowning their lives away in rum because they have no jobs. They have no opportunity. And I see so much young men in Grenada with no teeth in their mouth, faces shining. When you talk to them, some of them my age, but they look like my grandfather because they're frustrated. They have no jobs. They have no hope. And you know what? The politician is not talking about that because it will cost them votes.
Right. Right. Guys, if you just joined us, we're talking here with Denison George and Mr. Earl Maitland. They are independent candidate, viable independent candidate, and would be contesting the next general election in Grenada. Earl, you have really done a lot on the ground, and you are on the ground, you've been on the ground. What is wrong with politics today or politicians today? What is the problem?
Right. Let me first say I saw Miss Cassandra Mitchell. I saw a comment on the live about Miss Cassandra Mitchell. Let me say a pleasant good afternoon to Miss Mitchell and commend her for the great job that she continues to do for the people of Grenada for that which is good, and encourage her to continue the good work that she's doing, trying to educate the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique as to their rights and so forth. I would say, Junior, that we do not only have a problem or something that causes a problem in our parliament building or in the offices of authority and so forth. We also have it among the regular people where there is much lack of appreciation for self and so forth. Um, it is the responsibility of every individual to seek the truth. And by not seeking the truth, Junior, many times too many mistakes would be made. And that truth has been taken for granted. And what happens is that the politicians prey on the ignorance, and ignorance simply means lack of knowledge. They prey on the ignorance of the people. Now, for instance, when we look at what has been offered, be it contract work or permanent jobs or whatever, many persons believe it as a favor granted by a political organization. And this is not the case. And this is why members of civil society, myself, Mr. Denison Forrester, we continue to encourage persons to read the Constitution, familiarize yourself with your rights and privileges as a human being. There's a Universal Declaration of Human Rights as well that speaks about working and so forth. Now, what continues to happen, Junior, is a very sad and unfortunate reality that can only be changed by united efforts. But I believe it has to start with the people. Now, for instance, Junior, we would have seen over the most recent times almost every profession in Grenada has been striking. The fishermen, the busmen, the vendors, everyone has been striking. But what happens is that there is a lack of unity, and too many times we have persons who are treated unfairly or meted out with injustice. Those persons stand alone. So many of us Grenadians, when we see our brothers and sisters at the hands of injustice, we need to stand with them and not wait until our turn reaches. There was a saying, basically, in a nutshell, what it says: when they came for you, Junior, I did not stand with you. When they came for Mr. George, I did not stand with Mr. George. But when they came for me, there was no one to stand with me because they already lost the battle against corruption. And this is my unbiased opinion. This is the problem that we have here. The situation with the hospital, where there is not sufficient parking, there's no proper parking, especially in the Maribor Hospital, the situation of police brutality, the situation of not having dialysis machines in a general hospital, even though it was announced 2 years ago by the Minister of Health that it would happen. Now, we need to be selfless. We need to be our brother's keeper and continue calling on those 15 persons or how many ever persons in authority to find out why is it that our brothers and sisters who need dialysis treatment do not have that dialysis machine that was promised. Why do they not have the privilege of politicians to fly out of Grenada on the next flight when they fall sick? Mr. George.
Yeah, George.
And don't forget, Earl. 3 years ago, I donated 2 kidney dialysis machines to Grenada.
Yes.
And you remember what happened to them?
I remember it disappeared.
It disappeared.
It disappeared.
They said it.
But hear this, right? Hear this, Earl. As I said, Earl and Denison, you guys are. I work with you guys a lot. I've seen your strength. I know your strength. I know you guys are very good. How much power would you have as an independent candidate? And wouldn't it be to enhance that power and that strength and that ideas with an established political party so that it could be actually implemented? Say you were to win. Say you were to get into the House and Earl were to get into the House. What strength or how many power do you perceive that you will have to make a difference?
Junior, go ahead, Mr. George.
Let me just say this, Junior.
Yeah.
We are already making a difference.
Right.
Let me just say this to you. There is already organizations taking place in Grenada for a third option to contest in the upcoming elections. I
Okay.
could tell I can't release more information, but there is a nucleus forming of a group of individual concerned Grenadians, and we are hoping to this organization would come together and will be contesting in the next election. So we might be independent candidate here tonight, but by the time the general election comes around, it may not be that way. Now, you asked Earl a very important question about politicians. Let me tell you what: people have lost faith in people have lost faith in the politician in Grenada. Let me tell you why. The politicians make almost $8,000 a month. The average minister, that's almost $90,000 a year. That's almost $300,000 in one term, in 4 years. While these people making this money, serving the people, you have people like Ann Fletcher at the Methodist School who have been cooking there for 28 years, making less than $850 a month. You have people like Miss Denise Matthew, who worked for 33 years cooking at the RC school in Grenville, started making $250 a month, retired at $850 with no pension. These politicians serve 2 terms in office and they get a pension for life. These politicians, these people that are running Grenada today, they don't care about people. They don't care about poor people. They don't care about the less fortunate. It's about connections. They care about themselves. They care about, and they take Grenadian for granted. When you have a prime minister who could just pick up $82 million with no explanation to where he got it, what he did with it, and then the Grenadian people have to pay that money back and feel he doesn't owe the people of Grenada any explanation, something is wrong. When you have a prime minister and you have court orders telling him to pay people money that is owed, you have court orders and you are the prime minister and you say you're not doing it. What do you think happened? It's arrogance. They are arrogant because they think Grenada, when you have a magistrate in Grenville who could charge a child molester $600 and could go home and sleep in the night, and it doesn't bother her. She don't think the people of St. Andrews would get up and uproar. When you have a minister who tell people in Simoon to go and sell lime juice and stand up by the road and sell it instead of you providing a little shelter for a woman to protect her children, is an arrogance. They've been in power. They think Grenada belongs to them and their connections. All they care about, Junior, is their true Grenada. Grenada for the have, Grenada for the have not. And you know whose side they're on.
Yeah, yeah. Again, guys, we're speaking here with independent candidate Mr. Earl J. Maitland from GEM and independent candidate Denison George. We're going to open up the phone lines shortly to get you. You guys could call in and talk with them live on air. But sorry, Earl, I believe you were saying something before I cut you off. I want to get your point of view on this. And then what I want to do is, earlier today, I had an interview with pollster Peter Wickham. And we're going to play a portion of that interview and get you guys feedback on what was said. Very, very interesting interview with Peter Wickham that we're going to play like in the next 10 minutes or so. So, Earl, you were saying something before I break your trend of thought.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the fact that the partisan politics thing is a major issue. It causes a lot of separation. And at the end of the day, we see the average citizen fighting each other, as we're seeing here, even on the live. Persons may be a supporter of a specific political party, so they would hate the truth from someone who has proven themselves. But what is happening, Junior? The same politicians that persons are fighting over, we see them drinking together. We see them taking pictures together, chilling together, from both sides. So I just want to remind the people, we are not your enemies. And the truth, many times, it does not have any friend. And I stand on the side of the truth, not with any political party or partisan politics of any type. Just last night, an elder gentleman, 79 years old, he said to me, the young lady is going to win her seat. And he he actually identified the constituency or the parish in which the young lady is running. And I then asked him, what is the name of the young lady? And he did not know. I asked him who she was, and he did not know. So this is what is happening, Junior. This is what is happening in the country, and it's a very scary reality if we do continue along that line. And I just want to remind the people, country first, please.
Yeah. I want to play back this before we get into the Peter Wickham interview. I want to play back this because this occurred yesterday. And it was a big talking issue for the whole yesterday, even before the meeting was concluded. All right. I want to get you guys' reaction on this. This occurred yesterday at the NDC meeting in St. Patrick. Check this out.
Patrick East, let me hear you. St. Patrick East, let me hear you. I am counting on you. I am counting on you to put the new national party back into this government so that we can continue to suffer, to serve you.
Yeah. Denison, let's get your reaction first on the Pamela Moses gaffe yesterday. What's your take?
It might have been a gaffe, but I think it came from the heart. Because you know what, Junior? There is really suffering in Grenada. There is suffering in Grenville. There is suffering in St. George's. Walk around St. George's. You see more homeless people now in St. George's than any other time. You see more homeless people begging on the streets of St. George's and Grenville now than any other time. Children comes up to me when I'm in Grenville and say, Mr. George, can you buy me a cup of tea? And that happened very frequent. So there is suffering in Grenada. And there is suffering in Grenada, not among all Grenadians. Remember what I keep telling you, Junior, there is two Grenada. Grenada for the well-connected and Grenada for those with no connection. Grenada for those with access and Grenada for people who does not have any access. So yes, people are suffering, and that minister know people are suffering. And if she don't know people is suffering, then she's not in touch with the people of Grenada. She's not in touch with the people of her constituents. Number one, let me tell you this. Unemployment among young people in Grenada is almost 40%. Under-unemployment is almost 50%. Now, let me explain this to you. We have a shortage of nurses in Grenada. Why not train nurses? As I told you, the lady from the immigration lawyer from Canada contacted me and said, George, we need 300 workers from Grenada right now. You think the ministry don't know that? You think they're not aware of that? But they don't care because their bread are buttered. You understand where I'm coming? So the minister, yes, it might be a gaffe, but I think she spoke from the heart. And I think what she said there, I think she accustomed saying it. Maybe not in front of the PM because she would get in trouble. But I think it's something she accustomed saying, and it came out so fluent that I think it's regular speech among maybe her colleagues. Because I have heard ministers within the NNP said to me, we don't agree with what the Dr. Mitchell is saying, but we can't say nothing. So I think it was a gaffe, but I think it was something from the heart. Because
speaking of gaffes, I may have said NDC earlier, but it was in fact a NNP meeting yesterday in St. Patrick.
Because Junior, there is real suffering taking place in Grenada today. There is real suffering and not only among people without jobs. There is a lot of people, civil servants in Grenada, struggling. $500. Right. Still people in Grenada making $500 a month. And you have these ministers making $8,000 doing nothing than making empty promises to the people that elect them.
Right.
And all I'm saying to you is that it might be a gaffe, but I think it came from the heart. And I think it's something that she had discussed and maybe talked outside the premise of the Prime Minister being present.
Earl, what's your take? What's your reaction to what was said yesterday in that meeting?
Yeah, I think it was hilarious, but the minister should be speaking about the persons that have been sent home as a result of the COVID restrictions, especially now that the restrictions have been lifted. Many times, Junior, the media I believe, plays a crucial role in putting out the necessary information. And there are people that are suffering. Mr. George is correct. There are many persons that are suffering, and that includes the most recent, those persons that have been sent home, the vendors at the Grand Arts Market, and so forth. And this is what I would like to see in the media. This is what I would like to hear the minister speaking about.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So I want to get your thoughts on something, right? Because someone just put up something in the chat there, and they say, "Hey, I thought this guys was independent. They sung more like NDC." But I want to get your reaction on it. But before we do that, I have to play back this interview. Earlier today, I had this exclusive interview with pollster Peter Wickham, and Peter Wickham, as we know, he has been working as a pollster for many years. Let's listen what Peter Wickham has to say as it relates to the current political climate in Grenada. Check this out, guys, and I'll give you guys an opportunity to comment on the other side. Check this out, Peter Wickham. Peter Wickham, so how are you doing, my friend?
Hey, good. Not too bad. Good to be with you.
Yes, absolutely. Nice. Peter, you have done so many different polls and analyzed so many different elections. First, I want to talk about the Tobago election. Here we had a party who did not have the financing and the mechanism as the party in power, yet they were able to overthrow or be able to take power there in Tobago. What does that say for parties right now? Is it that the parties without the financing and support has the ability to beat the financial mechanism of large organizations?
I wouldn't say that Tobago is a general rule. I think Tobago is a specialized case. There's historically been a tug of war between the Trinidad and Tobago Party, which is the PNM, that has historically had a foothold in Trinidad and in Tobago, and the localized political parties. And there have been a series of local parties that have emerged over time that have struggled. What we saw in Tobago was the fact that it's a country, well, it's an island that's small enough where a local party has finally been able to make a foothold in that country. I don't know that it's generalizable across the Caribbean because Tobago politics is very, very localized. It's very special. Of course, Trinidad and Tobago is about race on the mainland, but certainly in Tobago, it really is a question of this cultural affinity. And I think that what we saw this year was a manifestation of what's been happening for a long time. The challenge is that in the past, you've had organizations like the TOP that have also made similar inroads into the politics locally. And then it fizzled after a while. The question is, does this movement have the capacity to hang in and become a realistic long-term part of the Tobago politics? Or is it alternatively going to get swallowed back up into the national conversation as time passes?
What does that say about politics in the Caribbean? Does it say anything to politics in the Caribbean in reflecting to what's happening in Grenada? Here we have the new National Party, who is currently in power right now, had built that mechanism. And we have, well, you could say a virtually new organized party, the NDC. Do you see any similarities or difference between what happened in Tobago and what possibly could happen in Grenada?
I'd like to think not, because I think what the NDC has done is rebranded, and I think what they've done is good in the context of the kind of challenges that they've been facing. Because, I mean, let's face it, they've been struggling with the same formula for a long time, and it hasn't been working. So I think by changing out, by bringing new leadership, by bringing leadership that is not politically tainted, leadership that wasn't alive when they had the Grenada Revolution, which has been a big part of Grenada politics for a while, and bringing fresh faces, what they've done is they're taking a bet that, look, they can take politics in a different direction, and I think good on them for having done it. I don't know whether the conversation is the same in places like Tobago, because in Tobago, what you saw is the old political structure coming forward, and you're basically being remade, but with some of the same old faces. Grenada thing is something completely new on the part of the NDC. No, my sense is that it won't work initially, but if they stick with it over time, then it can lead to something. So it's good politics. I don't know that it is comparable. If you want a point of comparison, one could argue that the Democratic Labour Party in Barbados needs to do something similar, in that it needs to come with a completely new slate and a new set of people who don't have the baggage of the past that can weigh them down.
When you look at comparative analysis and you look at the experience, because the NNP is coming in with a wealth of experience candidate, and that's their platform. They stand because they're tried and tested as they in their campaign. And you have a virtually new established non-political gear of people who's coming in on the NDC. When you do your poll and when you look at polling analysis, do people gravitate to the experience, or you think that they move towards a new brand? What has been your experience?
That's an interesting question, and the reality is that experience and not only experience but familiarity is a key thing. When people go out to vote, they like to vote for people who they are familiar with. So if you go and you say that this is a Peter Wickham that I know, it's far easier to sell that than someone who people have never heard of politically, because we like to think that our politicians are people that we know. So if you bring somebody from the community who is known to be a community worker, like somebody who is a nurse or a teacher, that's a popular thing. But many instances, they don't make it in the political domain because, well, people know them on one level, they don't know them politically. So it's a very risky proposition to put a lot of new people out there, because people tend to hedge their bets with experience because they feel that that's what is being sold. The St. Vincent and the Grenadines situation, where the election was called during COVID, Ralph Gonzalez won a 5th term. My sense is that if it was not a COVID time, it would have been difficult for him to sell the need for experience in the way that he sold it. So it's a big part of it. The challenge is that the NDC needs to see this not as a sprint, but as a marathon. And reality is that it is not about this election necessarily. It is about future elections in which they can say, we're bringing something that's a completely different project. In many ways, you need to look at a recreation of something that was done in Antigua when UPP won, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where the ULP won. And you have an entry into politics of people who never sat in anyone's cabinet before. And they say, look, the first time I sit in a cabinet is the first time that I am actually in government, and we're going to do things differently. So this is what I think is the kind of ethos that they would try to build. It's not going to happen quickly. And the question is, do they have people in it that are going to stick to their guns and stick to it and say, I'm going to fight this election and the next one and maybe even the next one until we come home? Or would they prefer to say, well, look, this hasn't worked, so let's go back to the old guard and pick them back up again, which I think would be a huge mistake.
Right. When you conduct your polling analysis, I know we've spoke in previous elections, we've spoken about your polling analysis, how you tally those polls. What are you looking for? What are the key factors and important things to look for that even the candidates or even the political organization should pay particular attention to?
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of things. It's a simple issues. For example, we look to see what the issues of concern. I think that's always something that is important, where you ask people what is the thing that they're most concerned about. That's one of the factors that we look to. The other thing is party support. So you look to see what the party support is at the national level, and then what the candidate support is at the local level, and whether there's a variation between the two. If the party is stronger than the candidate, then it tells you that the candidate will have to be pulled along by the party. Sometimes it's the other way around. Very rarely, but sometimes it's the other way around, and then the candidate can pull the party along. So those are some of the things that you look to. And then I also look for swing. I also try to calculate swing, which tells you a lot about what has happened between the last election and the current election and what the expectations are. And if your swing is constantly going in the wrong direction, then you see a concern that you will want to address. If your swing is going in the right direction, then you're doing well. In a situation where you have a situation like Barbados, for example, and Grenada, where one party has all the seats and they have benefited from a considerable level of support in both elections, then you would naturally expect a swing against them. And in both Grenada and in Barbados, there was a negative swing in the last election, but it accounted for a percentage point or two and didn't mean that either party lost any seats. So in those kinds of situations, it's a relatively gigantic swing you're looking for to know that there will be change. And if you see a moderate swing, it is within expectations, and it means that people are relatively happy and they will continue to vote in that way.
So you're saying that they have not, I'm not sure if you did already conducted any analysis of the current situation in Grenada, but based on projections or what you've seen, what you've gathered, are you seeing any kind of gigantic swing, moderate swing, or no swing at all?
Well, I mean, I can't comment on the swing until I actually calculate it, and I can't calculate it until I poll. So that's not something. But what I would say to you is that I was telling you about the last election, and in the last election there was what I could say a statistically insignificant swing, and that was the same in Barbados. Now, in a situation where the party has all of the seats, the likelihood of a positive swing is very low, because I mean you already have 60% support, and it's not going to go higher than that. So my sense is that you're looking to see how much of a negative swing you have. So my sense is that in both Grenada and Barbados, in the next election, there will be an anticipated negative swing. If it is of the order of the previous election, then ultimately the party still wins all the seats. If it is more exaggerated, then you would say that the party will lose particular seats. So that's essentially how the whole thing will be assessed.
Do you think COVID and the economy might reflect in people's attitude to vote or to support a particular party? Because now people might be reluctant or might say that because of what transpired during COVID, they lost their bread and butter. And I've seen this in governments, that the leading party always seems to get the blame for what is happening in the country's economy currently. Do you think because of in this COVID situation here, we'll see that the ruling party in power get a negative swing or blame for certain aspects of things that might be happening in the country during the COVID time?
No, you're correct. It's two conversations. One is that you can get that where people say, it is because of you that I lost my work. Or you can get a converse situation like what happened in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where people say, well, because of the situation, no, I need you because I know that you know what to do to hold things together. And to me, it's a tug of war between the two. My feeling initially was that the latter reaction was an immediate reaction to COVID, while the long-term reaction to COVID would have been, say, look, I blame you when I throw you out of office, which is what we saw in St. Lucia. But after the St. Lucia election, we had the Barbados election where people held on to the incumbent, and the feeling was that you have an alternative that you have to be relatively certain of. So I've done an analysis of the different elections and the COVID factors, and my feeling is that in the case of Grenada, I would be more concerned that people are not more concerned. I'm more inclined to think that people would want to vote for a government that has sufficient experience to carry them through, which is the kind of conversation that took place in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the kind of conversation that took place in Barbados. I think the St. Lucia situation was somewhat different. The alternative was an experienced opposition that had been in office just 5 years before. There was, one could say, a regularity of alternation between the two parties over the last three election cycles. So in a sense, the administration was almost a sitting duck. I don't believe that you're going to have that type of conversation going on in Grenada, because the issue for me is more a question of people saying, look, because of the times, we need a person with experience. And in that regard, I would think that the NDC came up short. Having said that, however, I'm not for one moment suggesting that the NDC was wrong to place inexperienced leadership in place now. Because as I said, I mean, for the last 15 years, they've been doing it differently and it has not worked for them. So my thing is, make a clean break now.
Right. So if you were to give advice for two political parties here. We have the NDC, and they were interested in your advice. What should this political organization be doing right now to even make a better message to possibly get a positive swing their way?
No, what the NDC has to do is stress experience, and stress the extent to which it has managed COVID and managed COVID reasonably well. The COVID experience in Grenada has not been bad at all. If I could think of worst case scenarios, which I wouldn't mention, no, Grenada is not one of them. So you could say that if you were NNP inclined, you would want to stress the fact that you've done a reasonably good job, you've minimized the fallout, you've held the line, and you've managed the economy in the hardest times. If I'm advising the NDC, it's different. The NDC needs to make the point that, we've had the old formula, we need to try a new formula. We have leadership which is young and exciting and can shake things up, and with the intellectual capacity to make a difference. So it's an ideal situation in which you have two parties that have different characteristics, and my sense is that they can rely on both of those characteristics equally.
Importantly, yeah. Our final thing I wanted to touch on really quickly, with a population of Grenada, with a population of 60-something% of the youth are considered youth. 68% of the electorate are considered youth, and with the youth leadership, do you think that would play any major role towards NDC because of the young?
I think that is one of the wagers that the NDC is making. And again, it makes sense that you give people someone they can relate to. The problem with that analysis is always that, I see Bernie Sanders, for example, and Bernie is an old guy, but Bernie resonates with young people.
Right.
The question is whether young people are going to be more excited by the message of the NNP or the message of the leadership of the NDC. And that really is what it comes down to. But again, I think that the idea of presenting a young person to try and capture the imagination of young people is brilliant. Young people in the Caribbean as voters have a sad tendency of being very fickle. So they tend to go with a winner, and they like to go with the enthusiasm and the hype and so on. If the NDC does not present that hype and doesn't present itself as a winnable alternative, my sense is that it will lose the youth attractiveness. But the youth tend to be, as I said, they go with it's a fickle group, and it can go with the flow that will present itself from time to time. But again, I think it's useful for them to present a leader who captures that youthful enthusiasm, especially as you know that the current leadership of the NNP is of advanced age. Now, that, however, does not necessarily mean that he can't relate to young people, because, as I said, Bernie Sanders is one of the oldest people in politics, and he has one of the youngest followings, which is always something that fascinates me with American politics.
Yeah. All right, guys. So there you had it. This lengthy conversation that I had with Peter Wickham earlier today. This was not a live interview. It was a pre-recorded interview. So let's go to the independent candidate, Mr. Earl Maitland, and of course, Denison George. Denison, you on top. Let me jump on your reaction first. What's your take on the analysis by pollster Peter Wickham?
Well, I think he stressed a lot of very significant point. And I think when he talked about experience and the old guard, I think the case have to be the prosecuted. The case to the Grenadian people have to be prosecuted. The opposition party to the ruling party have to make a case on why 28 years of NNP rule has not been successful for Grenadian, has not lifted Grenadians out of poverty, has put more Grenadians into poverty, has 28 years of NNP rule, we still have over 40% unemployment of young people. I'm sure if you take a poll, you would see that it's only a few people, the margin of the people who have benefited from the NNP rulership for all these years has been one side against another side. And when it comes to sustainable development, there is no sustainable development in Grenada that has been constructed. There is no new hospitals. There is no new roads. When it's still rain, you can't get to St. George's because you can't pass over Balthazar Bridge. You can't pass through Wester Hall after 28 years. You know, when school, I was in Grenada recently when school was supposed to open. We had 17 schools cannot open. And I think short-term gain, yes, maybe have some short-term gain that NNP could point, but I'm talking when you're talking about sustained development, I think they have failed with the Grenadian people. You know what I mean? What you could boast of, you build 5-star hotels, but you didn't build an hospital. People check into the hospital in Grenada and they don't check out. You know, lack of vision, Junior. Look at this. We have Richmond Hill Prison sitting on our country's best piece of real estate. You understand? Our country's best piece of real estate. And all these politicians that is in power, none of them have the vision to say, you know what? Let's move that prison. Let's put that prison inland where there is work for land for prisoners to farm. And let's develop something beautiful on that site. You know, so what I'm saying is that, yes, NDC or myself, my brother Earl Maitland, we're going to prosecute the case against the ruling party because they have failed poor people. They have failed poor people in Grenada. You understand? There is more people hungry in Grenada today. You don't have to go far. Look in St. George's. There are more people on the street begging. There are more homeless people on the street than any time else in Grenada history. Look at all the stores, as I said, in St. George's. Who own the stores and where Grenadians are selling on the side of the road? What progress is that, my brother? What progress is that? So what I'm saying is that, yes, he has a point in terms of the old guard and the new guard. And I'm just hoping, as I said to you, right now there is a pot boiling in Grenada. Independent blood like myself and brother Earl Maitland. And very soon there will be big announcement because we hope to contest this election. And all I'm saying is that I hope NDC is doing their homework. And as I said to you, I was in Grenada a few years ago when I was building that house in Simoon, and I spoke to people in the NDC and I said, listen, you can't wait till election time to start doing things. You have to start doing now. Let the people trust and see that you could do and you could build and you could. And I hope it's not going to be a bloodbath. And I hope that Canadians doesn't have to ban their belly. Because I'm telling you, Grenada cannot take 5 more years of that NNP rule in that country. They don't care about Grenada. Let me just say this real quick. There was a case that brought in New York. I think it was the Taiwanese government brought a case against the Grenada government in New York. Grenada didn't send one lawyer to represent Grenada. They got a default judgment against Grenada for tens and tens of millions of dollars that Grenada have to pay. You know why? These people don't care. In Grenada, if they're not getting anything from it, they don't care. The reason why they haven't built a hospital, because they're not getting any kickbacks from it. It's for poor people. If it's some resort or something for rich people and their people, they build it. When you have the Prime Minister of Grenada telling the citizens of Grenada that he has to go to the US to get his annual checkup, his medical checkup. What an insult. And Mr. Thomas in Moya can't go to the general hospital to get a good checkup. Mr. Brown in Simoon and in Paul's and in Paraclete in Guave can't say he's going to America to get a checkup, but it's the arrogance. They feel they own the country. They feel they own the people. They feel they're going to win again. They feel regardless of what they do, they're going to go back in power. And it's time for Grenadian people to rise up and put their children first. Rise up and put your interest in your family first. Rise up and put your ability, because you want to build a legacy, Junior. You want to build a legacy for your children. What legacy are we passing in Grenada to young people? How many people home now could buy a home? How many young Grenadians could buy property? How many? And that's what I'm telling you. If we continue down that path, that divide of the two Grenada is getting worse.
Yeah.
And change have to come. I don't care which change. Change has to come to Grenada. and it cannot continue. We can't continue on that path, Junior.
Earl, what's your reaction to Peter Wickham?
Well, I would say, Junior, that Mr. Wickham missed a very important point. And his predictions would have come, I'm guessing, believing that there would be a free and fair election. Now, what Mr. Wickham may not be aware of is that there is a proposed amendment to the Representation of the People's Act by the Parliamentary Elections Office through the Supervisor of Elections, Mr. Elvis Moraine. And basically what had transpired last Thursday in the meeting is a recipe for disaster, guaranteed disaster. And what we were told as political organizations is that the office intends to pass a law or to amend the law to ensure that persons who have expired voters' cards cannot vote on election day, whether their name is on the list or not. Right? What Mr. Wickham may not be aware of as well is that the supervisor of elections, Mr. Elvis Moraine, on a live interview last week, Sunday, said that there is an obvious illegality in the constituency, or should I say between the constituencies of St. George Northeast and St. George, the tongue of St. George. And what they did was to meet with the NNP and NDC and decide among themselves to violate Section 55 and 56 of the Constitution of Grenada, to go ahead and violate the constitutional law that provides for a boundaries commission to establish a boundary in that area in Dabo where the housing scheme has now been populated. And it says a lot about the system, Junior and Mr. George. It does say a lot about the system. It says a lot about the electoral process. If the law states that a boundaries commission is to be put in place to establish a constituency boundary, then why not do that? Why is it that two political parties, and that, Junior, is 2 out of 14 registered political parties, met with the electoral office, and this meeting excluded members of civil society organizations. This excluded the Conference of Churches and so forth, persons who should have been privileged enough to have the information. And this only came out on a live broadcast. We would not have known what was happening. In 2018, Junior, 32 names were established for voter fraud in the Northeast constituency. And nothing was done. The law was not applied. The persons in authority decided among themselves, yet again, to not allow the law to take its course. And this is what will continue to happen. So the predictions, I would say, would have been expecting a proper electoral system. But this is not what is the case here in Grenada. This is not the case.
I want to, interestingly, you brought that up because I wanted to play with just a short piece of this excerpt interview that I had with Mr. Philip, who's a civil registration officer at the parliamentary office. Check this out real quick. I have Mr. Philip, who is a civic registration officer in the parliamentary election office. Just to clear up a few things and to get some more information, because we know we're heading down into that period, that time frame, election season in Grenada. Mr. Philip, thank you for joining us here for this quick information update. Could someone with an expire identification still be eligible to vote?
If you don't get your new ID, you can't vote. Let me say this, nonsense. You hear what I say? Nonsense.
What I would say in relation to our election laws is that persons who are qualified, who are eligible, what should I say, whose names are on the electoral list, these persons, and I just quoted from section 5 of the RPA, chapter 863, they are eligible to vote on election day. Section 58.2 further states that such persons shall present their voter's ID. And I wouldn't go in details into that as yet, but persons need to be guided accordingly. We are aware that there are a lot of different opinions going out there, but we urge persons not to get confused with the issue at hand. The voter's ID is issued for voting purposes, and we are in a replacement of expired voter IDs, and that started since I believe the 3rd of February 2020, just into the pandemic there. And I would be disappointed if persons deliberately decide that they are not going to replace their IDs, but just plan to come out and cast their vote on elections day.
What was interesting about this particular interview, guys, particularly interesting, and if you guys wanted to watch the entire interview, it's posted on the website, so you could watch it as a full 20 minutes interview. But what was interesting about this, Earl and Mr. George, is that the Prime Minister made a statement in the same rally, right, where he said one thing. And it seems as if, not it seems, it did contradict what the Parliamentary Election Office is saying.
Well, I mean, Junior, that's a regular thing here in Grenada. Remember, the society we live in, it has been destabilized, it has been corrupted, and this is what we're trying to end, the corruption as it affects us all. For instance, let us look at the Physical Planning Act that spoke about erecting things along the 55 meters of the high water mark on our beaches. And we saw the erection of Silver Sands, and the Prime Minister, who at the time was the Minister of Physical Planning, stated that the gentleman who broke our law, the Egyptian billionaire who broke our law, only made a mistake. And those things have remained. The court has made a ruling in the case of Ms. Gemma Bain Thomas, and the Prime Minister refused to make the payment. The court has made a lot of rulings in many cases that the government has lost. And look at what is happening. We are speaking about someone who consistently breaks the law. It is my understanding, Junior, however, from the Electoral Office, that the proposed amendments that they are going to put in, it will definitely not allow anyone with an expired voter's card to vote on election day, whether their name is on the list or not. But of course, the Prime Minister would be confident in saying that is nonsense, because this is a thing that he does. They normally break the law, and this is what the sad reality of Grenada is.
Well, so we should not, this is what contradicts me. And George, you could chime in here. Why would he advocate for it? Why would he say that, knowing that even some of his supporters might get affected by it? Because if that is a law, and the Parliamentary Election Office is who run the election and referendums and all this stuff, that they're tasked with that, why is he creating that friction between himself and the Parliamentary Election Office?
Now, is the Parliamentary Elections Office really independent? That should be a next question. Is it really independent? Is it influenced by the persons in authority? Now, let us remember that we do hope that there is a separation in our judicial system, or our executive or legislative. There is no separation there. Just the fact, Junior, that we have public servants sitting in the Parliamentary Elections Office, it should speak to intimidation and conflicts of interest and so forth. We have seen the many shuffles of public servants who stood for something, from customs going all the way down to the simplest jobs. We have seen what has happened. And the fear of being victimized by persons in authority has led this country to be what it is today, right? It definitely has done that.
George, I want you to chime in because you're a lawyer on this, and again, I did this interview earlier today, and I keep asking Mr. Phillip, but I was confused and baffled by it. Could you add some clarity to it from a legal perspective?
But Junior, what it boils down to is that when you in power for 28 years, you don't respect precedents of institutions. You feel you're above the institutions of government. For example, there is a contradiction here. The Prime Minister says one thing, the Election Commissioner says one thing, but he knows he's going to get his way. Because if the Election Commissioner does not grant him his wish, for some reason, that individual will be removed. And that's what's been happening in Grenada. When you stay in power for 28 years, you become so hype that you think that you reigned over all institutions. Look at that. The judiciary. Today in Grenada, most important rulings, politicians are interfering in the judiciary. You had that case with that young child in St. Andrews, the child molestation case. You had the gentleman that did the act, that heinous act. He was represented by the husband of the minister from Carriacou. When I mean, this gentleman, you're the minister's husband, such a heinous case. As a lawyer, I would refuse to take that case. You understand? Because just the impropriety of it. It might be legal, yes, to take that case, but it doesn't send a good message that you are the husband of the minister of Carriacou and you are going to court and represent a man who came to Grenada and brutally molested a child. But again, Junior, is the arrogance. They don't care. They don't care. And it's the same thing. There is rulings in Grenada. There is the Garvey case. There are rulings in Grenada. There is the Garvey case. There are other cases where the Prime Minister was ordered by the court to pay money, damages, and he said, I'm not going to do it. Now, let me explain this to you. With the Grenlec situation, they had to pay it. You know why? Because a U.S. court said, if you don't pay it, Mr. Prime Minister and Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, we're going to hold you in contempt. And that's why you see they run and get the $82 million and settle that Grenlec case. These people been in power too long. Grenadian, my people, wake up and take your country back. Take your country back for the sake of your children. Don't get bogged down in politics and green and yellow, NNP and NDC. Make a decision that what is best for you and your family. Because when this thing is over, when election comes and it's over, you will still be struggling to put food on your table. You'll still be struggling to pay your bills. The cooks in this Methodist school and all the other schools in Grenada will still be working for $500 and struggling to survive. So I'm telling the people of Grenada, put your children and what is best for you and your family and your children first. And give whatever it is that advocate policies that is going to push you and your family forward, that is going to lift Grenada up. Go with that person. Vote for that person. Don't get bogged down green and all this yellow and all that stuff. Their bread already butter. I said the last time I was on GBN and I was asked a question and I said, you know what? Poor people who are less fortunate, love Grenada. They love their country. But the power to be don't love them back. You understand where I'm coming from, Junior? And I say, listen, you see them up there, the Prime Minister all preaching to the young people, build Grenada, stay in Grenada. And I say to these young people, if nothing don't change in Grenada, get your children out of Grenada. Send them abroad to study. send them abroad to learn a skill, and let them come make it out there and come back in Grenada. Look at everybody, politician and the political powers to be in Grenada. 90% of them went abroad and make their wealth and come back to Grenada. And now they're telling you to raise your family in Grenada under this degradation and this condition. Things have to change. Grenada have to change.
Yeah. Guys, you're watching this, this conversation here. Two independent candidates. We have Denison George from St. Andrews Northeast and Earl Maitland. Someone said it earlier, and we're gonna end where we started. You guys sound passionate about getting rid of the incumbent party. You guys sound like you want to see the backs of Dr. Keith Mitchell, based on your utterances, based on what you're saying here. So why then, and people might say, why then put up yourself as an independent and not align yourself with the party that you more sound like you're aligned with? Do you think that is not splitting the votes and might make it harder, for the NDC? Denison or anyone? Sorry, Earl. Sorry. Let me unmute you, Earl. Go ahead, Earl. Sorry.
Right. Okay. I'm unmuted. Am I?
Yeah. You're
right.
Good now.
Okay. Right. Good. Now the thing is, I just want to correct here. We're not prioritizing getting rid of the incumbent. We prioritizing getting rid of the bias and the corruption on either side which it falls. Many persons have a perception, a very false perception, that you could take out that party and put in a next party and things will just change like that. It doesn't work like that. It's all well and good to hear about putting in factories and so forth in Grenada. But if the system remains the same, what is going to happen to the monies from the factories and so forth? Now, why not join the NDC? Why split votes? Now, I would say, Junior, look at what is happening. There are many lawyers in the NDC. And if you listen carefully to what I said just now, a while ago, the NDC and the NNP met with the supervisor of elections and decided among themselves to neglect the Constitution, Section 55 and 56, as it relates to boundaries, constituency boundaries. Now, there have been many persons who have been victimized and oppressed by the incumbent, including myself and many others. There were cases where persons have been illegally detained and incarcerated. There were cases where persons were violated sexually, including our children. Now, have I seen or have we seen the intervention of the NDC? No, I have not. I have seen the intervention of Mr. George. I have seen the intervention of Miss Erica Willis. I have seen the intervention of Miss Rolanda McQueen, of persons who are actually not just speaking, but they are doing the actions. And I am saying, let the actions speak for us. Now, instead of coming and stating to us that according to the Employment Act, Section 29(5), which makes contract work in certain institutions illegal, instead of coming and quoting that for us, what I would expect is that the lawyers in that party file a motion in the court, because it would obviously be extremely easier for them to do so. There is much that can be done. Instead of spending time on motorcades around the island saying to people, vote for us, let us actually make changes, the necessary changes, and contribute to Grenada. Right? Someone said, and that was around the time you asked the question, Junior, do we have to be in a position of authority to make change? Mr. George, myself, and many other persons, Cassandra Mitchell, Miss Erica Willis, Master Melvon Coutain, many other persons have made such changes, but with those changes without the position of authority, there are much restrictions and limitations. And I would say, Junior, it is rather sad that we have directives from the government, just simply to oppress persons. Let us look at the people who are to actually keep the government accountable, hold them accountable. And I'm not, at this time, I'm going to exclude the people of Grenada because that is a given. But let us look at the Ombudsman's office. Let us look at the Public Service Commission. Let us look at the Integrity Commission. And those things are not happening, Junior. They are not happening. All we see are acts of conflict of interest and nepotism, right?
Yes.
I cannot stand with someone that speaks the same language and acts the same as the incumbent. I cannot. I'm sorry.
Let's jump to the phone. We've got a caller on the line. Caller live. Where are you calling us from?
Let me just say this.
Hi.
Hello?
I'm actually calling from Grenada. Can you
Hello?
hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, caller, listen to me on the phone lines and turn on your background. Caller, you there?
I'm on the phone. I'm on the phone. Hello?
Hello? You hear now?
Hello, can you?
Okay. Hold on.
Yeah, we can hear.
Yeah, go ahead, caller. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm calling from Grenada, but in politics and international relations, and my focus has always been Grenada. In all my dissertation and my work, I did lots of research in the guerrillas and the revolution, and I know Earl very well because I've worked with the civil society even up to this minute. I have watched and listened to Mr. George, is it? I listened to his discourse, and I think he's ever so right. He's voicing the concern about many returnees who are now living in Grenada. We have so much skills, so much experience and finance to support our country. But when I view the political situation in Grenada, when I view our people, I truly believe that our people, I'm not being rude or anything. I truly believe that what Denison George is saying and Earl is saying is over the people's head. Why? Because our people are so indoctrinated in, I can't, I won't, I'm happy with where I am. It's like going to church. You hear the same sermon year after year, so the sermon has become you, and you feel that where you are is a safe place. So to move from where you are to the next step is very frightening. I think a whole spectrum of re-education is needed amongst our people, the younger generation, to understand politics, to understand why you vote, to understand issue politics, to understand what is needed, to look at their own self in terms of their needs, social development. I think our people do not have the skills to do that, so therefore they're manipulated by our intellectual government people who knows political psychology, who knows how to push the button. For heaven's sake, I was born here. I grew up in England. I was educated in England. I've been coming here year after year. I am seeing the same thing. I'm seeing young people live in school, live in colleges. I'm seeing Grenada young people on the roadside like drunk, druggy. I'm seeing teenage girls who could be excelling with babies. I'm seeing no social structure. I'm seeing no education. I'm seeing no training. But yet still, what I'm seeing is this. I'm hearing politicians saying the same thing over and over because the people are so indoctrinated. They themselves don't even know that they're indoctrinated. And there's a battle going on, like a war between people for positions. Why? These are men. They are our servants. How do we get our people to understand that, to see a different perspective, and then to change their thinking? Where do we begin? NDC wouldn't change their thinking. NNP wouldn't change their thinking because both parties are just regurgitating the same thing.
Right.
And I'm so tired of watching Grenada go down the sinkhole.
Junior, and
Thank you, caller. Thank you, caller. We appreciate your input. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Julia, I'm I agree with that caller 100%. She's making a lot of sense. And two things you have to blame for that: lack of vision, and as Bob Marley said, you keep the people so hungry that when they have to get some food, your brother have to be your enemy. And I think when you have a government that is waiting till election time is near to provide employment for people, to fix roads, to paint this, to do this, that just tells you how much love they have for the people. Now, let me say this to you, Junior. I understand what you say about dividing the vote. I intend to go to every house in St. Andrews Northeast and prosecute my case and prosecute the case against the NNP and the ruling party to the people. Now, the people is going to make that choice on whether they want me to represent them or who to represent them. Now, listen, there is also people that I went on a radio station. I was on TV the last time and I talked about giving up my salary if I am elected. And someone put up on the TV, oh, Denison George, if I had what $10 million or $20 million like you, I would have done the same thing, Junior. And that individual, no, I didn't leave Grenada with millions. He knows I left Grenada with $35 in my pocket. But you know what? I had, as a young man, growing up on the streets in New York, I had people that believed in me. I had people that provide me with opportunity to excel, to do better, the peak that I am today. And when I'm in Grenada and I see so much young people with so much promise, so much hope, they did everything that the government asked them to do. They went to secondary school. They went to T.A. Mary Show. They went to St. George's University. They got the subjects. They did everything. And then after, there is nothing for them to excel to than an Imani program that keep them trapped for 10 years. And election time is coming. You're going to give them barbecue machines and weed cutters. When you do that, you reduce the people. And as the caller just said, we have to start thinking. There is a class called critical thinking, and we have to start teaching our kids critical thinking from elementary school, primary school, secondary school. We also have to teach our children computer science. We have to teach them programming. We have to teach them coding so they could compete in this modern world. Politicians in Grenada have our people hostage, especially the ruling party. They have the country hostage and hungry. And it's time that we break that cycle. So yes, I am going to go and I'm going to meet everyone in St. Andrews Northeast, and I'm going to speak to the people, and I'm going to prosecute my case against the ruling party, and I'm going to say why we need change, and I'm going to offer my programs to unemployment, building factories. Let's can our mangoes. Let's take our breadfruit and make flour. Instead of we sending our mangoes down to Trinidad and Trinidad sending it back to us. Instead of we sending our green planting to Trinidad frying it and send it back to us. Let's do that ourselves. We have a shortage of nurses. Let's train nurses. As I tell you right now, Junior, I have a friend in Canada who is an immigration lady. She said, Mr. George, give the young men in Grenada my phone number. Canada needs 300 young Grenadian men right now in the farm program. So what I'm telling you, Junior, I am going to prosecute my case to the Grenadian people. I'm going to say what I stand for and what I bring to the table. And I'm going to tell you this, Junior, win or lose, I am still going to be doing what I have been doing for my country in terms of philanthropist. As a philanthropist, I'm still going to donate my yearly stuff to the hospitals, to Kajona Home. As Brother Maitland could testify, we're going to still be on the ground helping our people, because you know what? We love our people. I love my Grenadian people. And I know Brother Maitland feel the same way. And that's why we are foot soldiers. Not only when we have Brother Maitland and I, not only in this when election time is near. We have been on the ground and we have been doing. I don't come on TV every night and say what I've been doing, but I've been doing. And I've seen a little bit. Let me tell you, there's a few young ladies in Grenville that came to me and they said, Mr. George, what can you do to help us? I said, okay, I'm going to invest $500 in your little business and I'll give you $100 as a grant. And you know what, Junior? I did this with my own money and I've seen the success of this. And I'm saying why the politicians and these people that is running our country cannot see that. I don't think they want to, because they want to keep the people hungry until election time is near. Two things they're doing. keeping them hungry, and then you know what happened? They're giving them carnival. So they're gonna jump up and drink their rum, and they're gonna forget their pain for 2 weeks. And after carnival is over, same nonsense. We have to rescue Grenada. This is the time. If we miss this opportunity, it's gonna be a sad situation decades from now.
Yeah. You know, I could attest to the fact that Denison George and my brother here, Earl Maitland, has been on the ground. There's so many things that I've seen them, you know, personally, politics or no politics. We are like the same thing. We work through all these problems. We help people. We're all about people. In contrasting to a lot of the times when you see politicians or political organization, the only time you see they putting up pictures of the paving the road is around election. And that is not what you guys are about. So I really do hope that people take a long, good look at what you bring to the table. When they talk about caring about people, I could attest to it because I've worked with these guys before that they work with people, they care about people, whether politics or no politics. So, I mean, we honestly wish you the best in this venture, this independent run. And as I say to everyone, don't let the politics change you, man. Because half of the times, politician is always the hardest people to reach when you need them.
And Junior, let me just say this. I just want to say happy birthday to a young lady from Pearls, Miss Tabitha Cape. And I just want to wish you a happy birthday. And I just want to say to all the Grenadian people out there, to all the young people in Grenada that feel like giving up, don't give up. Keep fighting, keep pushing forward, hold on to your dreams. And, you know, the system may be against you. Yes, we know it's not a level playing field. And we know if you come from a family that is less fortunate, you stand a less chance of some. But you know what? Grenada belongs to you as it belongs to every one of them. Grenada also belongs to you.
Thank you. Let's closing words, guys. Closing words. Then, Mr. Maitland, your final words.
Yeah, Junior, I'm muted.
No, you're good.
You're good. Okay, good. Right. So, you know, closing words. You know, I want to say, especially, you know, there's a danger in the partisan politics. It has retarded the success of our country for far too long. And we need to get away from that partisan politics and remember the country. Mr. Denison George and I, we have worked along together as citizens of Grenada through the Grenada Empowerment Movement charity organization, which has been registered with the government of Grenada since 2010. And Mr. George as a philanthropist. This is how we have worked along. Mr. George is someone who I found out about when I was advocating for dialysis machines to be placed in the general hospital. I found out from a good friend that Mr. George actually sent down 2 dialysis machines. I believe Mr. George, I was around 2015 or so. So that was over 7 years ago. To see him as an independent candidate for the St. Andrew area, I must say that I felt a breath of relief with some disappointment in the response of the electorate. I also want to say that, you know, it has been a challenge as someone who is patriotic. You know, a lot of time people confuse patriotism with probably just wearing the national colors and supporting a political party. But that is not the case. You know, I want to remind the people, you know, this is not about party politics. This is not about getting glow sticks and jerseys and hats, whether it be yellow or green, and going to view regional artists coming into Grenada. There's much more than that. Let us remember the persons who have been illegally incarcerated. Let us remember the pregnant mothers who have to go to the general hospital and sit on tables without cushions. Let us remember our brothers and sisters who died as a result of it not having dialysis machines. Let us remember the fact that Grenada's oxygen plant at the General Hospital remained closed for 2 years, a problem that was fixed within 45 minutes by a passing Navy ship from America. Let us remember the silence of the major opposition parties in the face of the victimization of persons who were afraid or unwilling to be vaccinated. Let us still remember the stance that was taken by the legal representative of St. George's University, which created havoc in many lives of our Grenadian people who did not steal from their jobs, but was simply sent home because they were not vaccinated. Let us remember the present stance of that individual as um, one who moonlights, should I say moonlights, as a representative of the people, not even making any attempt to correct the wrongdoing that was created. And I would say in closing, many persons continue to use the excuse that you separate your morality, integrity from your professional career. And that is not the case. That is not the case. This is not what makes you a man. What makes you a man is you stand on principles. You stand with your people no matter what it costs, right? And with that being said, Junior, have a good night to everyone. And I do hope, Junior, that, there are persons who have been sent home with that vaccination process. I would like to see right along take up that challenge of trying to ensure that those persons are compensated for the time that they have been sent home and reinstated in the jobs that they have been sent home from, especially now that the COVID restrictions have been removed convenient time for the cricket to take place. The masks have been removed, the testing, the quarantine, everything, just in time for cricket. It's a slap in the face, I would say, to have the major opposition party. I know there are many supporters here. I could see the juvenile comments from those persons, and it's a slap in the face, to actually be so vocal in advocating for persons who have not proven themselves, or who have left our people stranded
Right.
in the bottom of the ocean. But a pleasant good night, Mr. George. I definitely look forward to speaking with you, and congrats on the stance that you have taken, and God bless you, and
Thank you.
continue forward.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, Mr. Earl
All right,
Maitland.
Junior.
We have just a few more minutes before we wrap. So go ahead, Dennis. Let's wrap this up. A quick final words.
I'll say that in my closing statement. To the mother in Paul's and in Simone who can't provide a meal for her children tonight. To the family in Simone, in Pottery, in Tivoli, in St. John's, who don't know where the money is going to come from tomorrow. I know you love your country. We have a beautiful country. I've traveled the world, and every time I go to another country, I just returned from St. Martin, and I was so angry. St. Martins have nothing compared to Grenada. They don't even have a river, but it's well developed. Good hospital, good infrastructure, because they love their people. You understand? And we have a gem in the Caribbean. And if we don't be careful, if the people of Grenada are not careful, you could go to St. Martin's, you could go to St. Bart's, and you're going to see what's happened to the local people. The local people are pushed inland. They're marginalized. And the investors, the foreign investors, purchasing all the waterfront properties. I was in Grenada one night at Sandals Hotel. And after the night shift was over, I saw everybody was pouring out their bag, stuff from their bag. And I asked my friend, I said, what's going on? He said the security guard have to search the workers' bag before they leave the hotel, before they go home. And I say, man, this is happening in Grenada? This is happening in Grenada? So I want the people of Grenada to know, especially your young people, don't give up, especially your young men. I know you're struggling. I know you're frustrated. You know, I know the drinking, the rum may feel good today, but don't give up. Keep hope alive and keep fighting. And as Brother Maitland said, don't forget, Grenadians, when the Prime Minister had to get his medical checkup, what he said to you, the people of Grenada, I am going to the US to get my medical checkup. Don't forget when COVID was killing Grenadians, the Prime Minister said the health department is going to choose who live and who dies. Wake up, Grenadians, because if you don't wake up, it's going to be too late. We have a beautiful gem, a beautiful country. And it's not only painful for Grenadians in Grenada. There is tons of Grenadians abroad in the diaspora that want to come home to retire. And these people, when they come home, they're bringing jobs, they're bringing money. But because we don't have a good hospital, they refuse to come. There is people in Grenada I know now that rather stay home and risk their lives than to check in our hospitals because they're frightened if they check in, they may not check out. But again, when you don't love your people, when you can't get a kickback, there is no need for you to build a new hospital. We can do better. Grenada can do better, my brother. We are great people. We are the children of Julian Fedon. We can do better, and we have to do better. And as the days of Julian Fedon, we need another rising up in our people and remove the status quo. Rise up and take back your children's future, because it's all about your children's future.
All right. Thank you there, Denison George and Earl J. Maitland. Thank you guys for the engaging conversation right here on The Ride. We thank you so much. Yeah, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of our programming today. Thanks for participating, your share. Listen, I like to hear all sides. I want to hear all sides. So going into this election season, there might be people who have or take positions that you particularly may not like. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that they don't love their country or they love their country less. That only means that they have an opinion and idea of how they should move forward or he should move forward. Oftentimes we see all this rivalry and this fighting and you know what I mean? It's like you forget, man, that that's your brother, that's your sister. Today, tomorrow, somebody fall down. You know, at the end of the day, we all Canadian collectively. Let's end the tribalism now. Let's end the tribalism. Yes, I understand that you might be passionate about a political organization, but that doesn't mean that you have to be disrespectful. That doesn't mean that you have to disrespect your neighbors, right? And the political parties, both the political parties have a major part to play in ensuring that we keep this, that the supporters have an understanding and it doesn't get out of hand. I heard the Prime Minister said it, but I think in a lot of aspects, both political parties could be guilty of having this tribalism and hype that sometimes could be very, very problematic, especially coming down to closer to election. So let us not be a part of that tribalism. Let us not be a part of that fight. At the end of the day, as we say, when the carnival over, when election over, still need a brighter day. Thank you for watching, guys. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being a part of our program. Again, thanks to Denison and Brother Earl. We appreciate you. Yeah, vote for you want to vote. You want to vote NNP, vote NNP. You want to vote NDC, vote NDC. Vote Denison. Vote for Brother Maitland. Express yourself. Have meaningful debates. There's nothing wrong with that. Have meaningful debates. But remember, at the end of the day, where your loyalty lies, right? At the end of the day, you're Grenadian. You take a pledge of allegiance, not to a political party. No one here take allegiance to the NDC or the NNP or the this one or the that one. No one take an allegiance to any political party. You take allegiance to the flag of the country for which it stands. That is what's important. End tribalism. I'll keep saying it. And And that's the last thing I'll say on this. It's funny because everyone wants to characterize someone else, right? Everybody wants, oh yeah, you are NNP, you are NDC. It doesn't matter. I said this 100 times already. It doesn't matter what that person is. It doesn't matter what support, who that person lends support to. And some educated people, some people that you would think are educated people. I was in Greenwich just the other day. And I was taken aback because that particular person who I've known, I spent money on his program before. I spent money on his radio station. I supported his program because he feel that I am politically aligned to a political organization that he's not aligned to. He refused to even take a picture with me. Yeah, that's how tribal it's gotten. They gotten swapped. The guy forget. The guy lost his mind. Forget that I was the same one that was sending money for him to support his radio program. But yet, so tribal in the mind, so small-minded, so congested. If I was out in the street, I would have said a different word. He's so he's so mind-warped that he refused to even take a picture with me because in his mind, his little tiny brain, he perceived that I am affiliated with not even an ideology, because I am not ideological. I am not politically aligned. I am one that will listen to every single person and their point of view. Yeah, any person that wants to speak, I give them an opportunity to speak. So, small-minded people, don't be that. Don't be that. I beg, don't be that. Don't be that person who gets so torn out of shape that you refuse to see the bigger picture. You refuse to see the bigger picture. That's all I'm going to say on that. Thanks to my producer, Lois JJ, always doing a great job. In studio right here, we have Jacoby. He is director on the board. Only 17, guys, and he is a master at what he does. He controls all the cameras and everything that you see working in the studio here. In the chat room, we have Lloyd, we have Kims, we have Gail Charles, and Deanne Fraser. Thank you so much, guys. And of course, to all of our supporters, to all of our top fans, sharers, everybody, thank you and good night. Hi, my name is Junior George, founder and host of Ride Along Live, and I'm inviting you to become a paid subscriber to this platform. With your support of just $4.99 per month, you could do so much to help this platform grow and to help us help you and others around the world. We encourage you to click that link and become a supporter today. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
The wait is over. The time is now. The time is now. Get ready for mass. Get ready for mass. Get ready for mass. We are back.
Williams Funeral Service serve you with dignity and compassion as you mourn. Every day, we embark on the journey of life, and one day, the journey will end. It's on that day that you can entrust the celebration of life of your loved ones to David Williams Funeral Service. Call 718-291.
On Sunday, May 8th, Mother's Day, New Face Promotion presents Retro Bingo. Retro Bingo, up to $5,000 in cash. 5 $200 games, 2 $500 games, 1 $1,000 game, and the jackpot $2,000. Retro Bingo going down at 178 Newport Street. Music by DJ Flawless, No Apology, and DJ Hot Stepper. Your tickets cost $40. More at the door. For more info, call 347-304-5453. Zelle or Cash App is accepted. Start time 7 p.m. It's Retro Bingo. Mother's Day, Sunday, May 8th. Lots of giveaways for the ladies. Retro Bingo, up to $5,000 in cash. Sunday, May 8th, Mother's Day.
Well, it's on the right along, so it's happening here.
Came over here. What does it mean? You know, I grew up in what I guess you call a typical family.
We break all the stories, and that's just a fact. And that's why everyone has a story to tell.
Right Along Live, I mean, yeah, it's the real deal.
Right Along Live is brought to you with kind compliments of Buy Brand Caribbean. Yeah, Buy Brand Caribbean. Buy organic, eat organic. CaribbeanOrganics.com. Now, Caribbean Organics, Buy Brand Caribbean is, I'm telling you, you're going to be hearing so much more about it, but it is products, organic products direct from the Caribbean sent to your door. Yeah, sent to your door. Put it back up. Yeah. Mail to your door, guys. I'm talking about all the spices from the Caribbean. I'm talking about the candies. I'm talking about the groundnut sugar cake, all the sweet treats. It's about Buy Brand Caribbean. So much stuff. A full package of stuff. You're going to hear much more about Buy Brand Caribbean. Launching pretty soon and in your mailbox. Thank you guys again. See you tomorrow.